What's up, good people? So, this gonna be my last Jesus video. I decided to leave him alone per video. I'm on to something else, digging a little bit deeper. Then got into the historical events within the Bible. Um, this Bible is a little deeper than what people think, especially the Old Testament. The New Testament, garbage, just straight up made up bull crap or whatever. And so what I'm gonna do right now is just break down the pretty much the supposed to be eyewitnesses, the Gospels or whatever, from a few little old notes that I done took from, everybody account, eyewitness accounts that like totally differed. And I am left to believe that people are delusional. I mean, everything about this, people are making fit for themselves. So that, um, I mean, whatever reason it is, I mean, I really don't know the reasoning or whatever, because I mean, if you still don't get up and do work and do this, there's nothing for you. There's nothing for you. I'm sorry. I mean, everybody waiting for somebody to come back and save them and stuff like that. But I mean, even Jesus tell you that this was not meant for you. I mean, even in the book, the story pretty much ends. It's just after that, here comes Paul with his letters, and then here come the churches and stuff like that. But everything about Jesus pretty much ends, and it was supposed to end during the time of the disciples, while they were still alive and all that kind of stuff. But this might be a little lengthy, but I got tons of notes, so I'm gonna start with Matthew 1:16, and you got Luke 3:23, which in Mark 1 it says that Jacob is Joseph's daddy. In Luke 3 it says that Heli is. Which one is it? But you get two different bloodlines, and both of them supposedly be the bloodline of Joseph or whatever, um, coming from David. And so, uh, which still wouldn't make Joseph Jesus' biological daddy, nor would it even make him a member or direct descendant of David, for the simple fact that that God supposedly impregnated Mary. It's an immaculate birth. So you gotta remember. I mean, like there's actually no exchange of semen, no sex or nothing like that for this lady to get pregnant. So how could he be part of a bloodline in which he was made through a spirit? So, but when you go to excuse me, when you go to both bloodlines or whatever, right? They, like I said, they claim they from Joseph, but one of them supposedly from Solomon and one of them is from Nathan. Even if it one, some people say the other one is Mary. So y'all trying to say that uh Joseph and Mary was cousins, pretty much bottom line. But okay, so if you go back and check out the both lineages, and you'll see that it's messed up, even with Jacob or Heli, which one of them was Joseph's daddy. Go look into that. Now, Matthew 1 and Luke 23, like I said, the two different bloodlines. Now, let's get into the Jesus. His name was Jesus, right? And so you taking this from Isaiah 7:14, but to me, his name was supposed to be Emmanuel, but everybody know that him nor the child born in Isaiah name were Emmanuel. Emmanuel was to mean that God is with us. Now, when you go back over to Isaiah 8:8, it says, "Oh Emmanuel," because the things had started coming to pass, which they say it was. And then in Isaiah 8:10, the only place that you'll find it in the Bible is that God is with us is in Isaiah 8:10. You will not find it anywhere else. So Once again, that pretty much revolves down, comes back down to nothing. Now, so after Jesus is born, supposedly, in Matthew 2, and they go to Egypt, but in Luke 2, they stay in Jerusalem. So I'm not sure which one that is. So like after his birth, they supposedly went to Egypt or whatever to try and fulfill the prophecy. It says out of Egypt I call my son, but everybody know that he was talking about the tribes of Israel, especially if you're using precepts. It did not pertain to Jesus at all. But like I said, but when you go to Luke 2, they never left. They never went to Egypt. All right. And so now Matthew 4 and Mark 1. All right. So uh, after Jesus got baptized or whatever, they say he went to the wilderness and was tempted by the devil. So you get that in Matthew 4. But if you go to Mark 1, I mean Matthew 4 and Mark 1 say that he went to the wilderness and was tempted or whatever. But in John, now I like John. I like John because John, you might well say he's the Antichrist. He killed everything that everybody else was talking about. But in John, this is where you get him going to a wedding after the baptism and turning water into wine. The only place where you hear the story at is in John. So obviously these people were not on the same level, or somebody wasn't there. I mean, it seemed like John was there because, like, 3 days later with John, he went and turned water into wine at a wedding. But for everybody else, he went straight and was tempted. Okay. And so uh now where he gave this big old speech and all that kind of stuff. And how did it happen? In Matthew 4, to tell you that it was the pinnacle of the temple, then to the mountain. How did he go? I mean, which way did he go? Or in what sequence? But Luke 4 tells you that uh, he went to the mountains. He went to the mountains first, then to the pinnacle of the temple. So, and then when he gave this big old sermon in Matthew 5, it'll tell you he did the sermon at the mount. But in Luke 6, it tell you that did the sermon on the plain. And then Mark and John, they didn't remember the sermon. Or they wasn't out for it. So, I don't know. But all of these are so-called eyewitness accounts, all right? So, Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, it tells you that heaven and earth will pass. This is where you really need to go read this, because it tells you that all of this stuff will pass during the time of the disciples. It tells them, said all of them will be there to witness this or whatever. All right. So, and then for everybody praying and hoping to be saved and all that kind of stuff. Now, Matthew 7 tells you that not everyone will be saved. But when you go over to Acts 2, it said whoever calls on the name will be saved. I mean, so that goes, I mean, Matthew, but I believe that, like, the story was meant for Jesus not to come for everybody, but only for the lost sheep of Israel or whatever. And so therefore, the story really don't pertain to everybody. My opinion is that when Paul comes along with his letters, he includes everyone. And so Paul is pretty much, to me, the father of Christianity. I don't think Christianity is really a thing at all. I mean, it's only mentioned 3 times in the entire Bible, and that's when the disciples were called Christians, one of them, and then 2 other ones that's not in the context of people actually being Christians. The people called the disciples Christians. So if the people is calling the disciples Christians, then who are the Christians? I don't know. Or how could Christianity even really be a thing if you're a Christian, I mean, you can perform miracles and all that kind of stuff like that. When you know for a fact, most of these people out here following are exactly what I said, followers of some kind of faith or something like that, in hopes or whatever to try and be Christ-like. But you can't be Christ-like because you don't got no powers or nothing like that. You were not ordained anything. So I mean, it's a bunch of bull crap, just plain and simple. And then uh, I mean, okay. So I'm reading off a whole lot of contradictions as well, and so in Luke 7, centurion uh sends his some elders of the Jews about his servant to be cured or whatever. But in Matthew 8, the centurion goes to Jesus himself. Big contradiction. Now, let me get on into this. This is the good part. This is the part that, I mean, like, the reason why I think people are delusional, like I said, is that they excuse me, are trying to make these things pretty much fit for themselves. No matter how they read it or whatever, they don't really care that the stories don't add up. They just know what they have been told, and so therefore it makes sense to them, even though it don't make sense. Now, in Matthew 26 and Matthew 14, this is when Jesus was anointed by the woman or whatever, right? So in Matthew 26 and Matthew 14, it happened in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, where she poured oil on his head. Now, when you go over to Luke, it happens at a Pharisee's house in Galilee, where she poured the oil on his feet. And so, I mean, like I said, I mean, these couldn't have been eyewitness accounts. And I mean, especially being, I mean, like all y'all in the same house together and somebody see uh her pour the oil on his head, but somebody else see him pour it on his feet. And then it happened in two different places, at two different people's houses. All right. So now Matthew 26, Mark 14, Luke 22. Judas Iscariot makes his deal to betray Jesus before they get together for the meal and all that kind of stuff. But in John 13, like I said, I like John. He makes his deal afterwards. And so it's something for you to go look at. And then after he makes his deal or whatever, in Matthew 27, they got him hanging himself. But when you go over to Acts, he fell headlong, his guts busted out somewhere in an open field. I mean, all of this, I mean, like, these stories are bullcrap piled on top of bullcrap. Now, this is the banger. This is the banger to me right here. That should let y'all know that these people, I mean, are just seriously delusional, and the eyewitness accounts were crazy. Now, let's go on for to get into the resurrection. Now, in Matthew, Mary Magdalene, Mary come to the tomb. So you got Mary Magdalene and Mary. They go to the tomb. When they get there, bam, an angel come down, earthquake. You know, they felt it or whatever. The angel removes the stone right there in front of them while they are there. and he sits on it and he talked to them and said Jesus was gone and go tell the disciples. Now, that's your resurrection story pretty much in Matthew 28. Mark 16, Mary Magdalene, Mary, and Salome all go to the tomb, right? When they get there, the stone is already moved. They went into the sepulcher. And inside the sepulcher, that's where they saw the angel sitting inside. And he told them, yeah, he's gone to go tell the disciples. That's your resurrection story in Mark 16. Now, Luke 24. Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, and other women went to the sepulcher. The stone was already rolled away. They went inside, and there were two angels inside. Oh my goodness. And then these angels just asked them why they looking for the dead among the living. And then they went back and told the story to the disciples. They didn't tell them to go. They went back and told them, well, I guess he didn't resurrected. This is his, I don't know. But they ran from there. Now, as I say again, I love John. Because John just kills the exact whole resurrection. In John, you will not find an actual resurrection. I'm going to start with John 20. In John 20, you get Mary Magdalene. She's alone. She all by herself. She go to the grave. The stone's gone. She looked down. She don't see nothing. So she run away. She go get Simon. She go tell Simon Peter. Now, Simon Peter and the other, that's all they call him, the other disciple, they ran back to the grave or whatever. And the other disciple outran Simon Peter. He get there. He don't go in. He just see the linen and stuff like that. But when Simon get there, he go in. And once Simon goes in or whatever, here's when the story gets crazy. It switches back over to Mary. And Mary's weeping and crying and stuff, right? And somebody, she sees some people. And she was like, what have you done with my Lord? Or whatever. And so this dude, dressed up, disguised as a gardener, asked her, woman, why weepest thou? And she didn't know that was him. First of all, like I said, because he was disguised as a gardener. And so he finally tell her, it's me. And she go to try and touch him. He tell her, hey, don't touch me. He's like, for my wounds have not healed or whatever. I have not ascended. He ain't ascended yet. So you got some people walking with him, helping him, pretty much because he's sore as shit from the torture or whatever. And so now this takes me back to my point. That's why I say I love John. John 19. In John 19, in 38, Joseph of Nicodemus supposedly buries Jesus, right? And it says, and after this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus, and Pilate gave him leave. And he came therefore and took the body of Jesus. And there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came Jesus by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and alloys about 100 pounds of weight. So if you go and you look up mirror, MYRRH, it's medicine or whatever. Then took the body of Jesus, and wound it up in linen cloths and the spices as the manner of the Jews to bury. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulchre, wherein was never man laid yet. There laid they Jesus, therefore, because the Jews' preparation day for the sepulchre was near at hand. All right. So the reason why I went back, first of all, to show you that supposedly they had already taken the body. They had taken the body already and buried it. Matter of fact, and it says somewhere else in another garden. So whatever tombs and stuff that they was going to look at, it's a huge possibility that Jesus was never there. His body was taken the day before. Come on now. I mean, get this shit through your head. I mean, like, of course he's not gonna be there. They already took the goddamn body. And then, even when you continue to read in John, now, I mean, you have to go back. Like I said, they brought in myrrh and stuff. They wrapped him up in bandages as if to bury him. No, I mean, to pretty much to wrap his wounds and shit like that for healing. And that's the reason why he told Mary don't touch him, because he was sore as shit. And they disguised him as a gardener. The reason why, when they was taking him out or whatever, he was disguised as a gardener because had it been known that he was still alive, shit, the goddamn Jews was probably going to, whoever the Jews or whoever was persecuting were going to kill him, to be exact. So, I mean, that's why I like John. And John, if you really read John carefully, Jesus never died. He never died. Then he told her to go back and he told her to lie. He told her to go and tell the disciples that he was ascending. I mean, he hadn't. He told her to go do that, but I mean, it was plain and simple that he had not been risen. What happened was, like I said, they pretty much bandaged him up and walked him right on out of there in a disguise. And so I know to a bunch of people, it don't matter about the stories not adding up and all that kind of stuff. But like, if this is the inerrant word of God and all of this supposed to be miraculous and stuff like that, I mean, it's just like it wouldn't stand in a court of law. It's like you get two people to be witnesses for you, and both of them tell a different story than your own story. What you think gonna happen? You might well go and put the handcuffs on and lock yourself up. Pretty much bottom line. And so, I mean, like, it says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. And knowledge was the fruit that Eve ate. Knowledge. We ain't talking about no literal fruit. It was knowledge. And people don't want to go back and they don't want to question this stuff like that. But I mean, to know that these books have been, I mean, if there was ever an original story or whatever, to know that by the time you got this book in this language that you speak now, and that has been pretty much re-edited all the way up until the point where you got now. And it's proven that even the King James Version was re-edited again because the Catholic Church didn't like a lot of the stuff that was in it. And so the actual king, and they left it, they let it remain the King James Version, but the actual King James versions that we have is not the King James Version, it's the Roman Catholic Version. The only difference is that how the version we have, they took out the Apocrypha. And like I said, the Apocrypha pretty much fills in the gaps from the 400 400 to 500 years of missing time between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And Apocrypha brings in uh, Alexander the Great, the Greek, but the Old Testament brings in the Persians, and like I said, during this time is like all of these were conquering conquerors. People were being conquered. The Persians came in and conquered. Then the Greeks came in. That's why you have Alexander the Great, the Greek in the Apocrypha in the 400 years of the missing time, and then finally your New Testament comes from the Greco-Roman or the Roman period. Pretty much, bottom line, even though you had a Latin Vulgate, which is still a Roman, the Romans pretty much translation or whatever, and uh, so you have all of that in between. So I mean, I don't understand it that like people don't want the knowledge. Like I said, the fruit was knowledge. People don't want the knowledge. In order for you to get through all of this, you gotta have or be in search of knowledge. I mean, to get a better understanding of all of it, and then go back. I mean, like historically, you can look up uh, information for people of non-color. So if you're really interested in looking up this stuff, yeah, if you're really looking up all this stuff, because people of color, you pretty much you're not gonna find a whole lot of history of yourself before slavery until you start looking differently. Knowledge until you start looking differently. These people, they so-called Indians, start looking into black people, and you're gonna start finding more and more about your historical past. But as far as like the Greeks, the Spaniards, and all that kind of stuff, you can actually go and find historical data on them. It's just that they cut the black people bloodline off and started that slavery or whatever. But I'm pretty much I'm done with this whole Jesus thing, man, because people are delusional and everything about it. Like even for the people who believe in the Bible and use the precepts, would tell you in a way it don't matter to them. So they just willing to accept uh what they consider to be the truth, even if it ain't the truth, because it fits their narrative. It fits what they feel like is going on in their lives, man. But to me, the world is a cycle. Life is a cycle, man. It will continue to go on and on and on and on and on. Like life is a cycle. You're gonna take a big catastrophic event to kill off everybody. And like I said, this book is outdated. And then in Genesis 1, you get a replenish. What was before the replenish? These are things you should be trying to look into. What was before the replenish? How can you accept a book that's saying it's the beginning, but it's telling them to go and replenish the world? So, because if you really look at it, it tell you, first of all, across the waters. It was just God and his whatever across the waters or whatever. It sounds like we already in flood period. And then here he come bringing back up the land. So, and then he does it again with Noah and stuff like that. And that's another thing you can look at, like all these name changes and differences and shit like that. I know everything changed because the Old Testament was completely written in Greece. You can't find an older Hebrew, Phoenician story of it. And then here come your Greco-Roman with your New Testament. And pretty much more the Roman thing where the name changes and all that kind of stuff. And everybody know that Jesus in Latin or Spanish, and the Romans were Latin, spoke Spanish. Nothing but Jesus. But look into the contradictions, man. They have sites that you can just go to. And the skeptic the Skeptic Bible, it'll run it all down to you that you can go and match it up, even from the Old Testament. I just wanted to do this about Jesus because I'm like, man, I'm like, I'll probably still drop memes and stuff like that. But as far as like discussing this dude, man, these people are lost and just straight up dumb. But like the one thing I know, it's a lot of people coming out of it. It's a lot of people coming up out of this belief. And only the docile people will stay because, like I said, they don't want the knowledge of. They don't want the knowledge. And if you can accept something like this inerrant, with all the supposedly inerrant with all the errors, then of course you don't want to know the truth. You are accepting the lie to, like I said, benefit your belief. It's just the same as the pastors. They gave you the lie to line their pockets. And I was looking at a dude video. He said it takes 5 seconds to tell you that all you need to do is to believe in Jesus, and you will be saved. But yet and still, you go back to church every week, every Sunday to a different standard of being taught or whatever, and the shit still don't. It's not adding up for the people that's in the church. And like everybody say, the people in the church are the most. I mean, just look around, man. Molestation, the pastors' money disappearing, they not helping the communities, etc., etc. Church is no benefit to, especially not to black people. Got the biggest churches in the poorest neighborhoods, but the neighborhoods ain't changed. Still the poorest neighborhoods, still the same old same. Once again, I mean, that's it for me in Jesus, man. If you can't see that all this stuff is pretty much fairy tale and bullshit, then you, for whatever reason, you want to be docile. You want to stay stuck and hoping to me. Excuse me. You want to have something to blame. You're not comfortable enough with yourself, and I truly believe that you're not comfortable enough with yourself to, you know, put everything up in life on yourself and move forward to teach your kids and all that kind of stuff. If things ain't going right, you need a devil to blame, and which is dumb because you should actually still be blaming God because he even in Job he gave the Satan permission. Satan had to ask for permission. He told him, he said, go do it to Job. Go kill Job kids. Go do this and that and see if he stay faithful to me. Huh? Bullshit. But anyway, until next time, good people, like I said, I've been digging deeper into the historical side of things and looking at history, trying to find out like where we actually come from, and knowing that we've always been everywhere. Ain't no such thing as, we wasn't here, no new world and stuff like that. We've always been here. The entire thing has been populated. Something for you to look into. Uh, Even in the Old Testament, like I said, it tells you that they was doing trade across the waters. The little small waters or the big waters. Something to look into. But until next time, good people, y'all have a good one. And I hope Jesus do I hope he do whatever it is for you that you're looking for, which would never be proven.